Welcome to Life, Death, and the Law, presented by the law firm of Deason, Garner, and Hansen, hosted by attorneys Sean Garner and Adam Hansen.
Well, David, you've been in Yuma a long time, have you not?
It was going to be 5 years as of yesterday, May 22nd.
5 years, okay. And so I'm sitting with David Ibarra, and you're a 5-year young human. And the reason you're on our show, David, I don't know if you know this. I think I told you, though. We had Jeff Stoner on not too long ago.
Yes.
And when I asked Jeff to come on, I said, do you know anybody that you would recommend to come on the show? And he said, right without hesitation, he said, David Ibarra. Mm-hmm. And he's like, he's on the school board with me. And this guy has quite the story to tell. And I said, okay, I'll reach out to him. And lucky for me, you were very kind, and you were in Anaheim at the time when I chatted with you, right?
Yes.
And you said, yeah, I could do that. So I was blown away. I'm thankful that you came to sit down with me and chat. I want to get to know you a little bit better.
Okay.
And I think you have probably a lot to add and a lot to look up to. That's what I'm always looking for, is ways to get better in my life and teach my kids to be better. Mm-hmm. And so I'm always looking for nuggets of wisdom, and I think you've got a lot of them. Do you think you have a lot of them?
A little bit. Somewhat.
You've been around?
Been around.
You've been around the block, yeah?
Yes, I have.
So you've worn a lot of different uniforms in your life. The police uniform, military uniform, a nursing uniform. What are the uniforms? Am I missing?
Volunteer.
Volunteer, yeah.
Volunteer.
Mm-hmm.
Well, that's
what compelled you to do all those things?
Well, it started out in 79. I'm originally from a city called Stanton, next to Anaheim.
Oh, yeah,
it's
okay.
in Orange County. And went to high school there, and there's a summer program called the Regional Occupational Program, the ROP program. Mm-hmm. In the summertime, my mom said, hey, it'd be a good idea for you to get a job. And I was 15 at the time. A job? Yeah, you help around the house and get a job. So my friend and I, Danny, we decided to go to the ROP office in Stanton and talk to a counselor there. And he goes, well, what are you looking for? Well, we're looking for a summer job. And he recommended a place. And at the time, again, we're aging ourselves. This is back in 79. Actually, May 22nd, 1979 to be exact. We applied, and he said, well, I got a job for you, gentlemen. It's going to be a nurse's aide.
Oh, okay.
Or developmental assistant working at with the developmental disabled at this place called, at the time, they called it Casa Grande Sanitarium in West Anaheim. And they said, okay, you'll go there. You're just going to supervise some clients. They didn't call them patients. It was a 91-bed facility for the mentally disabled from severe, profound, moderate, borderline, and mild disabilities. And but we didn't have any idea what we were getting into. It was a 6-to-2 shift, starting off part-time.
Jeez, and 15 years old.
15 years old. And we got the work permit from our parents. And we went in, and the first day, I'll never forget my training nurse, Tarina. She goes, welcome. And it's overwhelming because when you come in to the facility, you have no idea. You have different personalities, different clients. Some of them were wearing, believe it or not, football helmets. Later, I found out is because they have grand mal seizures, so when they fall, it protects their heads.
Yeah.
We didn't know this. We're 15 and we didn't know this.
You just thought
and we're not there. Yeah.
They're big
no. So
Chargers fans.
Yeah, we didn't know. And Danny and I are going, my God, and they come and meet you, and you're greeting them, and I said, okay, we're getting to know them, and then she comes in and goes, okay, our first order of business is we're going to clean up this client. And the client was incontinent, and at 15, I'm like, what? I've never even changed diapers. What's going on here?
Yeah.
Just to show you how hard CNA work is, it's very, very hard. You do the total patient care, and that includes
clean
up and showering, bathing, and helping them with their self-help, hygiene. And it was overwhelming because I was like, what's going on here, you know? And she goes, well, this is what's going to make you or break you. If you can handle this, you know, usually we have people walk out the door the first hour of the job. So anyway, I did my job. I of course, I wasn't able to eat for about 2 weeks. But
did you take it as a challenge?
It was a challenge because...
Are you one to be like, when you're told you can't do something, that's when you actually dig in?
Well, more like it was, at first you were like, is this for me? And then I thought, well, you know, we had other young people working there. We had 15, 16, 17 high school kids, and mostly young ladies that worked there. And I was like, well, they need help lifting. That was another thing. You know, we had to lift the wheelchair clients and put them, you know, in their beds or when they had to go to the bathroom. So that was something that I go, well, you know, I can do that. My friend Danny, when we had our lunch break at noon, he left and never came back. Back then we didn't have cell phones, but when I finally called him, he said, what happened? He goes, no way. I can't do this. I can't do it. And he never came back. I stayed. And I stayed through my high school years. So I'd go to high school 5 days a week, and I worked the 6 to 2 shift on the weekends at Casa Grande. And then, of course, in the summer when I was able to work full time. So that was my first job.
Yeah.
And after years of being there, I was told by the charge nurse, she goes, you know, Mary Laird, she rests in peace. She goes, you know, you should think about going to community college and getting your we call it LVN. It's LVN, but it's actually LPT. In California, LPTs are licensed psychiatric technicians.
Okay. So
you're a nurse. And at that time, you'd be the charge nurse.
Yeah.
So again, we had this is where I tell young people, you know, think about your community colleges. In this case, it was Cypress College in Cypress, California, and we had people from the ROP make a presentation at our school and talked about getting your AA degree and going to community college, how affordable it was and whatnot, and they pushed the trades. So based on what my charge nurse told me, and based on what was told, I said, you know, I'll enroll in the program. And it's a 2-year program. And after you do a clinical, you do all kinds of training. You're a nurse, but you specialize in psych. And in '84, I graduated from Cypress College as a licensed as a psychiatric technician. You have to take your state board. And I didn't pass it the first time. Studied harder, and the second time I passed it. From there, my Casa Grande, now I went from nurse's aide to charge nurse, and after being there a few more years, I made it up to assistant director of nurses.
Wow.
At the time, there was job openings at Metropolitan State Hospital. It's a facility in Norwalk, California. At the time, it was about 1,100 patients from the criminally insane to schizophrenics to...
Wow. Yeah, like the whole, what do you call that, a level 1 facility?
It was level 1. We had our own hospital police. It was a big facility. And what I was talked into getting the state is the state benefits. All this time, I met my wife, Amy. I met her at Casa Grande. She was also a nurse's aide there at Casa Grande. So we met, we dated, and then she went on to the same thing. She went on to psych tech school. She got a job at Fairview State Hospital in Costa Mesa.
Oh, okay.
Working there. And I got a job at Metro State Hospital. So we continued to work there. But one of the things I noticed about our hospital police, I was like, you know, wow, they go around patrolling the grounds. They come to our units when we need help, because I worked on a lockdown unit, and sometimes they got violent, and we had to put the patients in 5-point restraints on the beds, just like what you see on TV, because they got violent. And we call the hospital police for help. And I got to talking to them, and I find out they make more money than us. And at the time at Metro State Hospital, I actually worked on we had a Spanish-speaking unit.
Okay.
So all of our patients were Spanish speakers.
Wow.
So I was able
That's a big deal.
I'm fluent in Spanish, read and write, and so that helped me. But what the officer told me, he says, with your bilingual skills, you make a good cop, especially with your psych background and being bilingual. You should think about getting into law enforcement. And that's where it all started there.
I see.
So I applied.
How old were you about this time?
I was 23 at the time.
Oh, wow.
23.
Still young.
Yeah.
A young buck.
And the opportunity to join the police force, take the exams, and go to the academy. And back in '85, I went to the academy in Orange County and became a reserve officer. And I still worked at State Hospital, and I would do reserve police work. Then the opportunity came to get a full-time job working for, at the time it was called RTD Police, the Transit Police in Los Angeles. And
I was just going to ask, so it's a division of the LAPD?
It's actually, we're our own department. Now it's called Metro, MTA. So you have your own, we policed all the public transportation in the city. In Los Angeles, it's the buses and now the subways, and now you have the trains. Mm-hmm. Right now, you service over 800,000 people that use public transportation. So you have your own police department. So we specialized on that, and then anything surrounding, if something went on, of course, working in South Central, East LA, North Hollywood Division, Van Nuys. You worked everywhere, wherever your transportation went. So it was very unique because we focused in on public transportation. And actually, I was assigned to downtown Los Angeles on a foot beat. I actually did the old-fashioned foot beat from 3rd and Broadway to Olympic to Spring Street to Hill Street, that whole area foot beat. And when we didn't want to walk, we just get on a hop the bus, do a check on the bus, and then they take us to wherever we need to go. So it was really unique because it was originally community policing, and you got to meet your vendors, you got to meet the people. Mm-hmm. We had gangbangers that liked hanging out in certain areas, and the business people would let us know. So you got a lot of old-fashioned, back in the early 90s, you got to talk to people and but that was your community. So
you're saying so the people that frequented the downtown area, you're saying people that were going to work every day in those big buildings, or the average hot dog guy on the street all the time down in downtown LA. You're saying these were the guys that were feeding you information about the bad guys.
Yes, because it was notorious in downtown Los Angeles at the time. I was like being in a third world country. You had chain snatchers, you had pickpocketers. You actually had, what people don't understand, you had hustlers that would play shell games, and people would gamble. They'd set up a little cardboard and they'd play card games or shell games, hiding something in the shell. And it's all like they do, almost like what a trickster would do. Yeah. And these people would bet on money, and he would manipulate so that he'd always win. Mm-hmm. And you had 5 or 6 people, and that was illegal. Illegal gambling.
So yes. That's illegal.
That's illegal. And then you'd see the little crowds, and then when we walk up,
they grab their blanket.
They grab their blanket or whatever, and they take off.
I saw that in New York.
Yes, and they did that
in Manhattan. Not those games, but they've got purses.
Yes.
Louis Vuittons. Yes. When police would come around, they just grab their blanket satchel and just they're out of there.
Absolutely. And we had a gang called Los Chilangos. Los Chilangos is a slang term from anyone from Mexico City.
Okay.
And if you ever ask anyone from any other part of Mexico, he goes, "What do you think about Chilangos?" It's not. Let's just say it's not. You don't get a very nice response.
Okay.
Even their soccer team from Mexico City are just notoriously not liked throughout. So anyway, this gang came into Los Angeles, and to show you how sophisticated they are, they would sell counterfeit bus passes.
Wow.
We would sell a legitimate bus pass for $50. They would sell a counterfeit for 25.
Wow.
So they would go into all the shops. We had multiple buildings where people worked in the sewing factories, making clothes and whatever. So to them, it was great to buy one of these counterfeit for half the price.
Sure. Yeah.
And they were able to get the hologram down, everything.
Wow.
And we were losing a lot of money in revenue because people would just buy those passes. So what we did is establishing again contacts. We noticed that the bus pass had the same serial number, and I go, wow, because the drivers are calling, I got another counterfeit, and unfortunately we'd have to cite the person for having a counterfeit document, and then we'd confiscate the pass, and then we noticed that the numbers were all the same. So we traced the numbers. I traced the numbers, and we found out it was sold at one store, made, and it was distributed out of one store. So we decided that we'd set up a surveillance cameras back in the day and wait for a person to come in to buy
a good old-fashioned stakeout.
And stakeout. And through the contacts, we heard through a confidential informant that it was a former bus driver that was making these, that was fired for stealing fare, and he decided it'd be a good idea to make counterfeit.
Don't you think of it? But he's kind of like Robin Hood, don't you think?
Well,
I mean, he's helping the poor guy.
He is, but the thing is, you got to remember, he was also involved in other things. With the money that he was making, he was involved in other illegal activity. We figured this guy was making about $30,000 a month.
Wow!
Back in the '90s, that's pretty.
That's fantastic. Money. Yeah.
So we found out who Miguel was, and we got him on camera because he bought the camera, and he would take the original counterfeit bus pass, go to Tijuana, have it printed out there, and then brought it across the border. So yours truly, when we did a stakeout, followed him all the way
Tijuana,
across the border.
Huh?
And my sergeant, when we got to San Isidro, I go, hey, Sarge, can I take a break in Mexico? And just like what you see on the movies, we followed him all the way to the print shop. And back then I had a 35 millimeter camera and took pictures, and I actually walked into the print shop, and lo and behold, all of our stacks for the next month, because you could buy it before the 25th of each month, you can buy a legitimate bus pass for the next year.
And so he was lining up the schedule.
And then he'd bring across the border, and they would question him, what's all this for? Yeah, I work for we make them here. Make a long story short, crosses the border, we catch him, we get search warrants on his properties, and we find all kinds of illegal activity. And just from that arrest. Yeah. But again, it goes by good old-fashioned police work. Mm-hmm. So that's what got me more interested into a complex investigations. So that,
From the legal standpoint, now we're in the criminal law area of practice. And so when it goes to arrest Miguel, you probably had to go provide evidence to a judge to issue a warrant, and then you could go in his house, right?
What happens is that we have one of the things that with the Border Patrol at the time, we were able to be at the border because we knew what his vehicle was, his license plate, a picture of him. We let every one of the INS agents at the border.
The federal branch was involved.
They were involved. They gave us one of their radios, and they say, if this car comes by at any time, we'll call you. We got a hotel. Us plainclothes cops, we got a hotel. Now we're working with the government. But once he comes into California, I remember in California, when you're a peace officer, you have peace officer status everywhere. Everywhere. Mm-hmm. And yes, when you, at the time, we went and Detective Barr talked to the judge in Los Angeles, and he gave us the warrants for the Los Angeles area. He had a house in Bloomington, California, next to Fontana. And we got a warrant, for that house too. So at the same time, when we caught him, we were able to raid the houses and find other illegal stuff that he was doing. But thing is, we couldn't do anything in Mexico because he was printing everything in Mexico.
Right, yeah. But you don't have jurisdiction there.
No, we don't have jurisdiction, but we had a nice meeting with the district attorney from Mexico and let him know what he was doing. Mm-hmm. They raided him.
Oh, they did?
At the print shop. So they did their own
Interesting.
thing. Yeah. And that was just because based on our things. So that's how that works there. He got charged, and that's where it goes from there. So
That's awesome.
Yeah.
So you did that for a while. Okay. So you're a police officer for how long? This is the early 90s. That's the Beverly Hills Cop days. You ever watch those movies?
Yes.
Axel Foley?
Yes, I watch them.
Dun,
Yeah,
dun, dun,
of
dun,
course.
dun, dun. Yeah.
Of course. Because it's Hollywood. It's a lot of Hollywood.
Yeah. And you had that in your area.
And they never show that's why we don't watch cop shows, because they don't show you doing the reports. When you're doing the reports, you're spending hours and then filing the case. And these TV shows show a cop getting in a shooting, and next thing you know, he's 10-8. He's back in service the next day. That's not the way it works.
No,
They'll
put you out for a couple
they
days.
put you out, and they will take your weapon. They will give you a replacement weapon, and then you're placed in the we call it the rubber gun club. You are placed on desk duty until further, because now you have to be investigated. Make sure
Really?
it's good shooting. You know,
Wow.
Adam, I got shot. I've been shot at 3 times in my career. I can remember them, once in Lido Creek in San Bernardino Mountains. Bonfire, we go 97 on the scene, Marty Morris and I. You get there, and someone shoots at us with the 38.
Wow.
As we exit our patrol car. And you are ready to shoot back, but it was a group of teenagers, young adults, that ran back into the woods. You take a shot, like they say, in the dark, and you hit the wrong person. You have to think about your background. With police officers, you got to check, what is your background when you are in a shooting? Sure. Are you going to hit an innocent person? So this doesn't work like you shoot 15 shots, but what if you hit the wrong person? You hit the person that you don't know who shot at you. So you got to think. Second time was during the riots. I worked the Rodney King riots in 92. I was at 55th and Van Ness in South Central when the riots broke out April 29th, 1992. I'll never forget that either, because it was chaos. People forget it's the worst civil unrest in United States history. And we didn't have social media back then. And it was terrible what happened with Rodney King when he was pulled over and beaten, and it was recorded, and it caused a gigantic riot. We lost 55 people, citywide. Buildings were burned. They were shooting at the firefighters. So we had to escort the firefighters to fires now. So it was a horrible time. And 39th and Figueroa, myself and Officer Carrell, we were on patrol, and we would arrest everyone for curfew at 10. And we're in the area. We see 2 men drinking, 40s. We're making the U-turn to make contact with them to hook them up. One of them branches a 45, and luckily he shot like boys on the hood, because he didn't aim at us, and those rounds went right over our heads. Carrell wants to get out and chase him. We're in the projects. Says, and then you call for backup. There is no backup, because the whole city was going. So you had to calm him. He was younger, and I says, you need to calm down. We go in there, you're going to ambush us. Yeah. We're going to lose. And outgunned. We're going to have to lose. And sometimes you got to do a tactical retreat. 6 weeks later, after they did the investigation, they recovered 45 rounds from back in the day. They had a TV repair shop, and sure enough, it went through the TV repair shop, and the detectives found the slugs, and they were 45s. Wow! I could have been killed that night. Yeah. And again, we couldn't return fire because they ran into the dark projects. We have no shooting background. Yeah. That's very frustrating. Very frustrating. And the third time was at Fontana PD during a traffic stop. Officer Trevino and I are dealing with gang members. We sit them at the curb. All of a sudden, we hear pop, pop, pop. We look up, and the tree branches were falling off. Well, someone shot at us from a distance. And then when we looked, the car took off on the freeway again. 2 of us, 7 of them. What do? You leave them, go with... It was one of those things where they got away with it. And again, what am I going to do? Shoot at them when they get on the freeway and kill an innocent person. So that's 3 times I've been shot at.
I mean, things are so racially charged these days. I feel like you say something, that can be taken out of context, and you might be doxxed or something. you worked down in the hood, let's say. Did you ever feel racially discriminated against? How does race, or does it even play into what you were doing as a police officer? Because you talked about black guys that shot at you one night. Is there a camaraderie between races, or is it more like, no, you're this race and I'm this race, and therefore we're enemies?
These 3 incidences where I shot at Lido Creek in Lido Creek in the San Bernardino Mountains, they were white skinhead types that shot at us. Okay. In Los Angeles, it was 2 African Americans. They were blood members from the blood gang. They were wearing red. Mm-hmm. And the third time was Mexican Americans shot at us. So there's nothing there. Okay, I got shot at by 3 different individuals during the riots. The Asians in Koreatown, they held their own. If you've ever heard the story, they're called the Rooftop Boys. If you ever Google that, they were on top of their businesses in Koreatown with rifles, protecting their businesses during the riots.
Wow!
And they were shooting at the rioters that were trying to come and burn their
Wow, interesting.
Koreatown. Yeah, it's called the Rooftop Boys, and they protected. So, again, when you're a police officer, you encounter people from all over, and everyone has their bad element. Yeah. Okay, no matter what. For example, a lot of people say these outlaw motorcycle gangs. In the outlaw motorcycle gang, for example, the Hells Angels, they started out in San Bernardino County. Is when they were World War II vets that came from World War II, special forces, rough guys, and they decided to start their own motorcycle gang. And people will say, well, they're rough and tough, but you know that I never, even though they were out there, never had a problem with them.
Really?
As long as you give them respect.
Yeah.
And that goes for everybody all the way. I've been very fortunate enough to do 33 years in law enforcement. What helped me a lot was being a psych tech, being a nurse. Because even though I worked as a law enforcement officer all these years, I still moonlighted as a nurse. On my days off, I would go work at the hospital, okay? So I was still part-time on call. Uh-huh. Do you know how much patience you have to when you have to talk to a person that has suicidal ideations, a person that you had to administer 100 milligrams of visceral IM stat because they went totally physical on someone? You got to calm down. I use the same tactics in the field. Yours truly became also a hostage negotiator.
Wow.
So when we had the SWAT team called out, I was the one in the comm center, and we had a board, and then I would do an assessment of the person. It's called a SOAP note, subjective, objective assessment plan.
Nurses use those, right?
You use those, yes. Mm-hmm. You did the same thing. So I found, by talking to the family members, is he on psychotropic meds? Why is he mad? His wife stepped out on it, whatever. So you take your notes, and you use that to talk to the person. And we would have to throw, before cell phones, the SWAT team would throw a tactical box into the house to talk to someone, a landline.
Oh, I see. Okay, so it had a phone in there.
There was a phone in there, and that you're on the other end talking.
No snacks.
Well, we can do snacks, as a hostage negotiator. When they start asking for alcohol, of course, we can't provide that. But again,
why? That'd probably work.
Well, you don't want to have a person that's on psychotropic meds mixing it with alcohol. But but the bottom line is that all this, my psych background, and just helped me a lot for verbal intervention, where you can talk to someone. 3 things that I would use my tactics. I'm a person with the warrant. He's bigger than I am. He kind of wants to fight. I'm going to ask you to put your hands behind your back. I'm going to if you don't comply, then I'm going to have to make you. And what do? You get on that radio, 3 Paul 24, send 2 more units. And he goes, I might not do it by myself, but I got 2 other units coming. So come on, let's get this done. And it's just ways that you have to, and are there officers out there that shouldn't be cops? Of course. There's a lot of officers that get the badge, and they think because they have that badge they can do whatever they want. Mm-hmm. Usually it's somebody that was bullied in school. This is their way of getting back at society. And then you'll always find how did that guy make it to be a cop? He used to be punked all the time. And then they get the badge, and unfortunately, those...
A little bit of authority in there.
A little bit of authority. And then you have some that are roid rage, you know, and that causes...
Ex-military or something?
Well, you know, a lot of it has to do with the personality. They get into the business for the wrong reasons. And they're 24/7. They think they're super cops. And sometimes they don't think. And they easily can get 0 to 60, get upset. Got to have patience.
Yeah.
That's why they yell at you at the academy. When you go to the academy, I went to 2 academies, and first day they scream at you, yell at you to see what your stress level's at. And that's what people were yelling at us during the riots, calling us every name. And you have to maintain your professionalism. Although if they put their hands on you, then you got to take care of business.
Sure.
But so anyway, all this, and I had time to join the reserves.
I was just going to ask, like, wait a second, but you were in the military as well. How did you do all that?
We had the Navy Reserves. I joined the Navy Reserves.
Why Navy?
I've always liked the Navy. I had an uncle, my uncle Pete Carrillo, may he rest in peace. He was the family. Let's say he was the
kind of the hero.
The hero. He was
on a pedestal. Yeah, he served in the military.
Yeah, served in the military. Family being from Mazatlan and Mexico, and he just went in there. And I always looked up to Uncle Pete. You know, he was in the Navy and he served, and I followed in his footsteps. And I joined. Now, when I joined, I was never on a ship. I was with the Seabees, an MCB 17 out of Camp Pendleton, and we were attached to the 5th Marines. So we drilled on the weekends, and then my number came up in 06. At 43 years old, I was activated to Iraq.
Wow.
So
how was that conversation with your wife?
I'll never forget, I was on a cordless, they don't have these anymore, but the big old cordless phone. I'm sitting in my... above ground pool, and all of a sudden I get the call. You've been presidential recall. You've been activated.
Wow.
So you got to go back to the police department. At the time I was with Fontana PD, and you just tell them I got activated, and then you do the they send you to Port Hueneme for training, a month training to get ready, and then they put you on a plane and ship you all the way over to Ireland. You stop in Ireland, and then you go from Ireland to Kuwait. You wait in Kuwait, and then you get on a C-130, and you're shipped into Habbaniyah, which is between Ramadi and Fallujah. And when you're on that C-130 with your fellow shipmates and Marines, you don't know where you know what's going to happen. You're getting off in a war zone, and we again, I was attached to the 5th Marines, and then we landed. And it's just another world. And remember, with getting now into the military phase of things, we see that when you're in war, your phone calls are limited, your emails are monitored. You have to be careful because it's OPSEC. But most of all the holidays. There's 2 funerals. Uncle of mine passed away because you can't get on a plane and go back. Other than being an immediate family in an emergency, the Red Cross will do everything to fly you back. And we had that happen. One of my shipmates had to go back because his mom died. But for an uncle, so you miss all these holidays. I'll never forget Christmas, Thanksgiving, being Christmas alone in your barracks, in your room, and you're just there without your family. And you have to realize that a lot of people, a lot of soldiers, service members had a lot of mental anxiety because they'd find out that their girlfriend, wife were stepping out on them, a lot of family problems, and they can't deal with them. And we did have service members, unfortunately, take their lives because there's a lot of stress there. And we did our job, and my job, as old as I was, I mean, can't imagine being 43 in a war zone. No, I wasn't at the front lines, and I don't have no war stories to say. I was in the rear with the gear, proudly supplying our troops. I did my job. We worked 7 days a week. We got Sundays half a day off because we had to keep stuff moving. But at the same time, we were on a lake. A lot of people don't know Iraq has 3 big lakes, and at any time the insurgents can come up. So I slept maybe 4 hours a night because you're always on guard, And as far as getting rocketed, you never knew where these rockets were going to hit. So yes, it was dangerous. And then I was exposed to the burn pits.
I don't know what that is.
The burn pits are the when you threw a bunch of hazardous material, and you couldn't throw stuff in the dump, like computers and documents and
batteries and
all that stuff was thrown in the burn pits, and it was always burning, continuous burning, and it affected my airway, and we had.
You guys were doing that.
We're doing that, and our barracks were.
The military said just put it in.
Yeah, put it in there, and we had no idea how bad the burn pits were, and it caused I now have asthma, and I have to breathing issues because it was toxic. You just threw all kinds of stuff in there, and again, you're out there for approximately a year, and what didn't happen to our Vietnam vets that we got as OIF in Afghanistan and Desert Storm is that our fellow Vietnam veterans, when they came back from war, they had received no mental treatment, clinical treatment. They were told to come back, and the stories. They were spat on. Uniforms, they couldn't wear them in public because they were called baby killers. There was no transition for them coming back into civilian life. So that's why you had a lot of Vietnam veterans that had problems, not only mental but physical, because they were exposed to Agent Orange. They didn't have what we have now, taking care of our veterans. But one of the things that I really appreciate after being in a war zone is that when you come back, they brought us back to Port Hueneme. They just didn't release us back to our families. They brought us back and they gave us classes. They did assessments. They spoke to us. It says, look, you guys have been gone for this amount of time. Your wife, your significant other, they had to be the person running the household. So whatever decisions they made, bad, good, or indifferent, they had to make one. You're no longer the playmaker there.
Interesting.
Because what happens is they had to make decisions, mortgages, make ends meet, whatever was the call, they had to make the call. And you got to learn to accept it. And that's one thing they transition. There was a transition back into civilian life. Because now you're with your spouse or your significant other, your family, because you've been isolated so long, you have to ease in back into civilian life. When I came back, I was driving like I drove out there. My wife's going, well, you're driving aggressively. Yeah, I just got to make sure we don't have a vid bomb come at us or a car come. And she had to tell me, hey, calm down. You're back and everything's good. No one's gonna.
So PTSD, yes, this is what we would call that now.
Yes, and you're sitting there because you don't
even know it.
You don't even know it, and it's twice because we're hyper vigilant. If I go, for example, to any establishment here at Burgers and Beer, I'm always looking around
with your back to the wall.
And cops and we sit in the back, so we can observe. It's just part of our assessing. We're hyper vigilant. Here in Yuma, we have these explosions in the middle of the night, and we get up. Just a few weeks ago, my buddy who's an Army veteran, my neighbor, we heard a sonic boom. We've had these happen out here in Yuma.
Yeah, the testing.
And both of us at the same time exited our houses, and we're both looking, hey, did you hear that? Yeah, I heard that. And we're looking around. We have our mag lights, and we're thinking maybe a propane tank exploded. Come to find out it was a sonic boom. Mm-hmm. But it's amazing how both of us exited our house at the same time. Mm-hmm. But anyway, that's been my career, as far as, I served and did my job. And then I went to Afghanistan.
Wow.
And served with the State Department. They needed to train their Afghan National Police. Mm. So they sent us to a special school, and it was in Virginia, and it was called PAST. And it was a special training course in the middle of the woods out there. And the way that they would weed you out of this training is every morning when you lined up for a formation, all they did what's called the shoulder tap. So the instructor would come behind you, tap you on the shoulder, get on the bus, you're out of here. You didn't make it. Because we had tactical shooting, psychological, everything that you could imagine, specialized training. And we were shipped over to Dubai, and then Dubai into Kabul. And I did 3 tours. Wow. I was all over Afghanistan, Kabul, Gardez, Kandahar, and then found Kandahar, Zabul province in Kalat City, and then I ended up in Kunduz by the Tajikistan border. Interesting fact about Afghanistan, we saw a lot of Russian tanks and armored personnel carriers. We're talking just like the Walmart parking lot up here. It was 3 times as more vehicles that the Russians left back with the Red Star. Because as you know, they were there in Afghanistan for in the 1980s. And they lost the war.
Sure.
They lost the war. And I'll never forget an Afghan colonel telling me, see all these vehicles that are right here from the Russians, because it was cheaper for them to leave it than take it back to Russia. This is what's going to happen to you guys, because this is the graveyard of empires. From Genghis Khan to the British to the Soviets.
Itself.
Yes, to the Soviet Union, to the Americans.
You think there's truth to that?
Yes, of course there is. Because at the time in 2009 when I was there, I was thinking, oh, come on, we're not going to leave our Humvees and our equipment. We're never going to leave Bagram. I mean, Kandahar Airfield, CAF, we had what's called the Boardwalk. Boardwalk was a shopping area that they built on the base. We had Burger King, Subway. We had a TGIF that the government, your taxpayers' money, paid for the establishment to make it feel like home. Yeah. We were with the Canadians, and they had a Tommy Hortons or some coffee place that they really liked. Like our Dunkin' Donuts, the Canadians, they brought them their coffee shop out there. And we would go there. We'd go on after our day, we can go there and get a cup of coffee, get food that we were familiar with. Yeah. And we had a level 1 trauma hospital on this base. Wow. We're talking a 2-mile base, you know. And we had all that stuff going on, and Bagram was a gigantic base. And you never think, we're going to turn all this over in you know, in the future after 20 years. But again, the thing with the Taliban is that they were fighting using the tactics that you never know who they were.
Yeah, it's guerrilla warfare.
And yes, and I showed you a few pictures. Yeah, I sent you a few pictures how I worked on those Taliban that we captured were making the bombs. So I did a lot of special work out there, and but it all came back to you never knew who the enemy was, because they wore the man jams, the same clothes, and maybe they were nice villagers during the day, but at night they would attack us. So it was a very difficult war.
Kids.
A lot of friendly fire. Yeah. A lot of friendly fire. We had 2 Afghans that were our translators, Fahim and Sierra, and they were housed with us in our living quarters.
Farsi?
They spoke Farsi and they spoke Dari, and those are the 2 languages. But actually, I'm sorry, it was Dari, and Farsi was like a catch-all because it was Arabic. Yeah. So if you got a guy from Syria, from Iran, they could still, but they still have different accents.
I see.
Yeah. So they would translate to, and then you had the Shiites, you had the Sunnis, you had their own internal fighting amongst themselves. So
complicated. It's so complex.
Just learned a few phrases. Afghanistan randustaram tashakur manana shukran. So we just learned a few things. How are you? And greetings. And but like I said, it was a very difficult war, and again, a lot of friendly fire. We were in the barracks one time at 1 a.m. Fahim and Sierra we'd have comms with the Afghan National Police, and about 1 o'clock in the morning, we heard C-130 going over our camp, and all of a sudden, if you've ever heard of Gatling gun, like the movies. Mm-hmm. The C-130 released their Gatling gun, brrr, 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 and they're shooting. Fahim and Sierra get chatter on the radio, tell them to stop killing us. It was the Afghan National Police at one of their posts. Unfortunately, they thought they were Taliban, and they shot.
Yeah, that's so hard.
Very hard.
I was just going to say, you're telling these stories. I'm thinking, how do you trust? That's hard. I mean, yeah, it's so hard. Even these people that you did trust and you're on comms with, it's like at any second they could turn. You never know who their allegiance is actually to.
And we did, because we would have translators that were shady, and we knew they wouldn't translate exactly what we said. So back then, before we had these, we had mini cassettes, and you record them
And then take it back and
because
verify.
what they verify, because they like one thing about Afghanistan, they like their tea, their chai time. So you'll sit with the commanders and the elders, and they always offer you tea and snacks. That's one thing about them that I loved about the culture. They give you, let's talk about inshallah.
That's what I was saying with the hostage thing. People just want snacks.
They just want
break bread,
exactly,
and then you talk. Okay,
exactly,
good things happen.
Good things happen, and you have they'll talk and they won't be on time. So if they say 9 o'clock, I'm on Mexican time sometimes, but they're on Afghan time. They're not going to be on time. When you told them when we were going to go do movements to go on an operation, we tell them, the Afghan National Army and the Afghan National Police, we got to be ready at 10, and you guys got to bring your own food. They were never ready at 10. They didn't bring their own food. And then you get people will just go ballistics, getting really mad and angry. And I says,
on the American side?
On the American side, yes, because they're sticklers for that,
Yeah, the military, you got to be.
And as you'd have to talk them down and says, hey, you know what? This is their country.
It's their culture. Yeah.
It's their culture. And you're stressing yourself out. And I was a team lead. I had one guy, Joe, may he rest in peace. He hated that, and he would cuss them out left and right. And I says, Joe, they may not know what you're saying, but they could feel your anger. And Joe, he got so disrespectful one time. They had a female Afghan National Police. And you ever heard of them turning their weapons on service members?
No.
Yes, you had a lot of Afghan National Police, Afghan that were taught by the Taliban to turn their weapons on us. And she was one that turned a weapon on Joe and took him out. And we had that, having a lot of problems with them turning their weapons on us, because when you train these Afghan recruits, they were paid $325 a month. The Taliban would pay them $500. So we essentially trained them, and they would defect to the Taliban.
Yeah. I mean, I get that.
Yeah.
It's their culture. It's their land. It's like, and then who are you guys coming in here?
Exactly.
It's like, so what do you feel about that? I mean, the whole time you're there, you have a job to do. So you're probably hyper-focused on that job. But in retrospect, I mean, looking back, it's like, why? Why did you have to leave your wife and your family for those years? I mean, what did it accomplish? You feel like, well, that was a complete waste?
Whenever you join military...
I'm not saying it is. Don't take me wrong. I'm asking.
Whenever you join the military, when you sign that dotted line, myself being in the reserves, it would be like just being on the bench for the Diamondbacks. You're on the bench. You're a backup catcher. In the event we need you, we'll use you. Okay. That's when you sign. You know what you're going into. You're going to go in, and you have to know what's expected. And I will tell you this. We did have some service members, and I'm sure other service members can agree. You had the ones that talked all the smack, but when it came down to you having to get to war, then they backed out. They had a hardship. Oh, I can't go. I got this. I had the same thing, leaving my wife, my kids. You go, orders are orders. And we let the decisions from the government are made for whatever decisions they make that we have to go and do our job. We do it. And Yes, it's a difficult situation because when your boots on the ground, that's when you know. See, that's the thing is they wish that they would have to talk to people that are boots on the ground. For example,
who's
the government,
the higher ups,
talk
the higher ups making the decisions of putting you guys in the streets with these Afghans that might even turn on you.
It's a difficult situation because we follow orders. We do our job, just like our Vietnam vets that went into Vietnam. You hear all these stories. We shouldn't have been there. Yeah, it's a difficult situation, very difficult. You do what you have to do, and they were drafted too. They were many of them were drafted. Okay, we don't have a draft right now, but when you volunteer, you sign the dotted line to go in. You go in and do your job. That's what you were paid to do. That's what your oath was. Your oath you took. In the future, I would just like to see myself a little bit more of intelligence. Get in there and talk and see if this is going to be worth it. Okay. Right now, we're at the brink of war with We're always at the brink of war with North Korea. I was in Korea, not during the war, but I did my training in Korea. One thing about being in South Korea, I was in Pohang, Busan, and Chinhae, where the submarine base is at. So I did training out there. The tensions are high because there's 36,000 of us service members approximately in Korea. We're a speed bump compared to the North Korean army, but we're there as a deterrent. Okay. Then we have our Iraq. We still have a base there. We don't have anything in Afghanistan. We do have our bases in Bahrain, the Fifth Fleet. We're all over the world. And again, with the countries that we're having possible conflicts with, of course, with Russia and North Korea, Iran, and it's just always a tinderbox. And the thing is, we have to think about: is it worth it? Is it worth getting involved in these conflicts? And right now, thank God that it's calm, and we didn't go into Iran, even though a lot of people forget what they did to us in 1979. I don't know if you're familiar with that. The hostages, when they took the hostages in 1979, 52 of them.
Olympics?
This was during the when the Shah was in power in 1979. The mullahs, the ayatollahs, they took the Shah out, and they became the leaders of Iran. The strict religious leaders took over Iran, and they raided our embassy, and they kept 52 of our hostages, including service members, for 444 days.
Wow! At
the time, Jimmy Carter was the president, and he didn't want to go in with any force. And the minute that Ronald Reagan said, if they're still there on January 21st, 1981, the minute that Ronald Reagan got in the office, the hostages were released. He must have told Iran, if they're still there, there's going to be hell to pay. Yeah. We also had a failed rescue attempt where Jimmy Carter, they tried going in to rescue the hostages. You can look that up. It's called the failed rescue attempt for the hostages. And unfortunately, our planes crashed, and the Iranians dragged our service members in the desert there in Iran. And that was a failed rescue attempt. So it was a very black eye, and it has been a black eye for many, many years with Iran. But we get in a conflict, we're going to lose a lot of people. So again, I just hope that they think about the consequences that happens from the war.
What do you think about Pete Hegseth?
It's good to finally see someone that had boots on the ground. A lot of times we have people that are in these upper positions that have no idea what it feels like to be deployed, do a bag drag, go on a convoy in a Humvee. He's done that. You got someone that's been there, boots on the ground, that knows. He's rough around the edges, has made mistakes, all of us have, owns up to it, and in this day and age, everyone can find anything about you at any time. But thing is, in his heart, I know he's for the people that are boots on the ground, and he cares. And that's what And as you say that out loud, it's like
I hear you saying that out loud. And to me, I'm thinking of kind of like a sports analogy, being on a team. That's the guy you want to be with. That's the quarterback that you want. When the game is on the line, you want that guy. I don't care, what he's done in the past, really. But if he's willing to work with me and he's going to put it all out there for me, that's the team,
Yes.
And so that's the sense I get from him. I don't know if it's true or not, but
it just, the guy, he's been there, done that. And what about the guy that's been in public service, for all these years, never served in the military? It's easy to go there and chastise people, sit up there and make all the money that they make, and they have no idea what it is to get deployed. Yeah, it's different than making a trip out there into the war zone and then take a photo op and then taking off. You have to be there. You have to be there and know what it is to be in a combat zone and a war zone. To get a feel for it, and he did. And my highest respects for anybody in politics that have the military background, because they know, and anyone that's served knows what the harsh realities are. But one of the things how much we have?
Keep
just
going.
For a minute. I just wanted to also say, I've talked about my career and everything, and. When I retired from law enforcement, there is no, and from the military, there's no class at what you do when you retire. And reason why police officers and firefighters and first responders, we get good pensions is because we don't last that long. A lot of us will die from cardiovascular diseases, strokes, you name it, because what happens is you're going 0 to 60, like 0 to 100 for your career. Okay, your adrenaline rushes, everything. Working a graveyard shift. I don't know if you've ever worked graveyard.
No.
Night shift. Trying to stay awake at 4 a.m. is challenging. Oh God,
wreaks havoc on your body.
Red Bull, coffee, getting out, doing push-ups, because about 4 o'clock in the morning, you're tired. And then you do the night shift, and then you turn around and do a day shift. It just wreaks havoc on your system. So when you do all that, and plus the rush when you get a code 3 call to a priority 1 call, a shooting in progress, you name it, your adrenaline, okay? And all of a sudden they give you this badge, and they'll say, oh, you did a great job, and thank you for your service. And they give you a nice shiny badge with your ID. Thank you for your service. See you later. There's nothing here. There's nothing that says this is what you need to do when you retire to avoid you from getting, sick or having all these problems, PTSD, you name it. There's no transition course back into civilian life. So you're sitting there and you're going, now what do I do? Yeah. What do I do now?
Do I have a purpose anymore?
You start collecting your pension, you start watching Netflix, you start eating Takis and having all kinds of bad food. You're now sleeping regularly. You're like, well, I'm not getting a phone call. Used to be the phone would blow up. Hey, can you come in and cover a shift? It's done. It's over. Your prestigious position of pulling people over, all that stuff is gone. Phone calls stop. And you're sitting there going, what do I do now?
Do you feel like not that you don't have a purpose, but you're just not needed anymore?
That, because like I said, when you're done, you're done. Just like a professional you said quarterback.
Yeah.
When
you're done.
When all these famous quarterbacks retire, they were once in the limelight. Next thing you know, they can go into broadcasting. They go out and they're done. They're done. Baseball players. One of my favorites, Steve Garvey from the Dodgers. He was wonderful. And now he ran for politician for office in California. But he kept busy. In his 70s, still looks good. But that's what we strive for. Yours truly. I'm going to talk about now California refugees, because that's one thing we need to. It's a phenomenon that's been going on recently. While living in California, and when it was time for me to leave, my sister, she couldn't afford a house in California. As you know, it's very expensive. Mm-hmm. She ended up moving to Arkansas. She got a job in Bentonville, Arkansas, with a home office. Walmart, exactly. At the time, she bought a house for $44,000.
Really?
Dirt cheap, yes, dirt cheap.
Wow.
So I'm living in Fontana. Fontana. It's called Fontana. Because we could, and you know this, Anaheim and Orange County, we couldn't afford to buy a house in Orange County.
No way.
So where'd we buy? We went to San Bernardino County where the houses where we're building tract homes. And back in the 90s, the houses were $85,000.
Wow.
Back in San Bernardino County. They were just building houses like crazy. So what'd we do? We went ahead and bought that tract home, and then we drive to L.A.
Yeah.
That 55-mile on the 10 freeway.
Yeah,
you know how that is.
My brother does something similar to that.
Exactly. So you do that. You do all that, and you finally got your home, and you live there in California, and then all of a sudden this idea comes, you could sell your house and buy a house cash. So what do? I just sell my house and not go there and rent to find out what life was going to be, because my sister had lived there a few years.
This is in Arkansas?
In Arkansas. So
you made a stop in Arkansas before you made it to Yuma.
Yes, and that's a very interesting story. But I went on vacation. It's different when you go on vacation somewhere than living there.
Yeah.
So when I'd visit my sister, this is fun, Mayberry, everyone's nice, good place to raise your family. One Fontana had a drive-by near my house. A gangbanger shot another gangbanger. I have a young daughter.
Yeah.
I have a wife. Am I going to raise her here? So the opportunity came, sold my house. In the blind, I go to Arkansas.
And you retired by
that time, I had it by PERS, and I got a job offer in Arkansas. Real bad pay. But anyway, I thought about the wife can stay at home, daughter can go to school, house is paid off.
Yeah.
No brainer.
Sure.
It's a cultural shock.
Really?
Everything's slow. One thing you do not do when you roll into another state, take off your California plates. Because when we rolled in and bought our house cash, at the time it was $200,000 for a McMansion. But this is the thing that were the three strikes for me, going to another state. I'm from California. I'm Mexican American. I'm a Raiders fan, and I have a pit bull for a pet. So when I rolled into Arkansas, there was no cookies, welcome to the neighborhood. It's there goes the neighborhood.
Oh, no.
And it was 14 years of hell.
Really?
Oh, God, yes.
Oh, that's too
when
bad.
I put that Raider flag out, first football season, I was labeled. And I got a job there. As they, believe it or not, they needed a bilingual cop because they have the Tyson chicken plant. And the Tyson chicken plant, we have a lot of raza that works there.
Yeah, okay.
So my interview went something like this with the chief. Ibarra, I like you because you speak Mexican. And we got all these people from Guatemala, El Salvador, and those parts of Mexico. And I'm sitting there going, holy crap, what? Did you just fuse everything together?
Yeah, it's like,
El Salvador, Guatemala is different than Guadalajara.
Yeah, exactly.
But I was like, oh, well. But anyway, I kept my mouth shut and got a job.
At least you could understand them, sort of.
Sort of. And after years and years, and then another thing my sister didn't tell me about is tornadoes. So you hear a siren. I call my sister. What do I do? She goes, get in the tub. Get mattresses and put mattress over Amy and Allie. Why? Because it's a tornado.
Oh, no.
Storms were horrible. Bugs the size of small children.
Really?
Their best Mexican food. We got Taco Bell.
Oh, no.
Anyway, make a long story short.
Really selling it.
It was not a fit. It was not a fit. It was not a fit. I've never been in snow. I don't know if you've ever.
They have snow there?
They have snow. Northwest Arkansas, they have snow. So black ice. I've never driven. Have you ever driven on black ice?
I've driven in ice, never black ice.
Black ice is horrible, and I didn't get the memo. So
yeah.
Anyway, I slipped on it going outside to get the paper. So I finally, out of a scene of the movie, our house gets hit by lightning. Adam, it gets hit. And I says, I really don't like it out here. I've been called every name. This is just not a good fit. And I told my wife, I go, it'd be nice to live in a place where the sun comes out every day. I never want to see tornadoes. I don't want to see snow. I want sun.
Yeah.
Do you know, Adam, when you Google
sunniest place in the U.S.?
Guess what comes up?
I've heard this.
Yuma.
Yeah.
So we're in Arkansas. I start bringing up YouTube videos of Yuma. one of the things I saw was Midnight at the Oasis. And I'm like, wow, look at this, look at this, look at this. And I go, and it's 360 days the sun comes out. Oh, it's hot as hell, but we're not going to ever have to worry about winter. Mm-hmm. March of 2020.
Pandemic.
Right before pandemic, we went on the Expedia and got a flight from Arkansas to Dallas. And, we got 2 flights here at our airport here in Yuma, Dallas and Phoenix. Mm-hmm. So we went Arkansas, Dallas, Phoenix. Correction, Yuma. We landed here in Yuma from Dallas. And it was in March of 2020. I got the room at Shiloh Inn. We stayed here for 3 weeks.
Wow.
We knew the minute we got on that plane that said Yuma, when I got on that plane with my wife, I said, look at the people on this plane, Amy. And you saw the people relaxed, tanned, T-shirts. I don't even know what Algodones was, but I bought a lot of Algodones T-shirts. I go, wow, look at that. Baja, California. Flip-flops, just relaxed. We land here in Yuma. When that plane opens up and we step on the tarmac, you got that desert air. I just go, God, this is great. We go down there. We'll never forget this guy named Josh. We rented a car. We rented a small Toyota. He says, is this your first time in Yuma? Yeah, welcome. He goes, I'm going to upgrade you to a Toyota 4Runner.
That's sweet.
He did. We go down Pacific. We look to our left. We saw a Walmart. We're good. So we went to Shiloh Inn. We stayed there. They got the biggest pool in Yuma, by the way.
Oh, they do?
Yes, they do. And we went and explored Yuma. We went to downtown. We went to Midnight at the Oasis. We went to Algodones. And we're just looking around. Everyone's nice. I'm at Target here at Palms. I talked to Lady Janet. I go, Janet, good place for retirement. He goes, well, I live here at Coyote Ranch. Go check it out. We go check it out. I meet a Vietnam vet. He's selling his house. Mm. How much do you want for it? Deal. Let me just get back to Arkansas and sell our house. Mm-hmm. We go back to Arkansas. We made our decision. We says, we're here, and we're not too far from Anaheim. We're not
3 hours.
We just loved it. Loved it. Fly back, put my house up for sale, and all the looky-loos, the neighbors that didn't like me, come out, and he goes, they saw the for sale sign. Are you selling your house? No, I just put this sign for the hell of it.
Stupid.
And we didn't like each other, so they go, where are you moving to? He goes, I got deported to Mexico. And to this day, I never told him where I was going. So we sold the house and got our U-Haul and moved here and been here ever since.
That's awesome.
And
About 5 years ago.
May 22nd, we arrived here in Yuma with our U-Haul truck and our 2 vehicles and Raider flag. But this time...
There's a lot more Raider flags here.
Yes, there is. But this time, remember, we didn't have California plates. We had Arkansas plates. So there were some people scratching their head, but we kept the low profile.
Yeah.
And I said, let's just be cool. And in the 5 years since yesterday, I've kept busy here in Yuma. Kept busy with my VFW.
Oh, okay.
I kept busy running for school board.
Yes.
Where I've been embraced. Mm-hmm. Yuma embraced my wife and I. We didn't know anybody here in town. Okay? In 14 years in Arkansas, we never had dinner at a person's house. Our
Really?
neighbors, no. We just didn't. They didn't talk to us. We didn't talk. I'm going to go on the limb here, but they're very racial out there. That's what I'm going to say in Arkansas. It's very racial. And they see a Mexican guy married to a white woman. It's difficult. It was just...
It's crazy to me.
It's crazy, but that's the way it is. It was very hurtful being there in Arkansas. I never would go back there. Very, very hurtful. So here we get embraced where we have dinners with family. I never knew what a progressive dinner was. It was where you go to...
Oh, you go to... Yeah.
My wife and I, what is this, Mm-hmm. We've been embraced here in my parish, being a volunteer at the parish, at the food bank, our food pantry, And then I couldn't stay retired, so I got a job here at the middle school
Oh, you
as
did?
a crossing guard.
Oh, very cool.
And I thought to myself, well, I directed traffic in downtown. How hard is it at 24th and Atondo? Oh, my God.
Oh, man. Yeah.
I almost got hit 3 times.
Yeah.
So I got back in the workforce and worked here and actually made it all the way to, I got a job offer for custodian. I says, I've done everything else. Why not?
Over at Otondo?
At Castle Dome Middle School.
Oh, that's where my
Castle
kids
Dome.
go.
Yeah, Mr. Gettings. Nice boss.
Principal Gettings?
Yes,
yeah.
good. So, and now I get to go to their graduation ceremony as a board member.
Very cool.
Myself, Mr. Ponder, who's going to be the new superintendent.
Very cool.
So that's where life, what's Yuma done for us? We have a saying, I have a saying, "You me gusta," is my saying about Yuma. It's embraced us. It's a beautiful community. And the people here and the Mexican food. In fact, right now I'm going to Stan's.
Are you going to
Yeah, I'm
stand?
going to Stand. So this is what Yuma's done for us. And we everything we need is in Yuma. When people say, you can go to Costco, no, I got everything I need here at Sam. Everything I got Sam's Club. I got everything I need here in Yuma.
Have you done that? Have you gone to, it's new here in town, but it comes from San Luis. What is it? El Navegante? Mariscos? El Navegante?
No, I went to Playa Azul. It's Navegante. Where is the
my
Navegante
gosh, so
at?
good.
Where's
Well, the one in town now, they just opened it recently over by what used to be Big Lots. So Dunkin' Donuts.
Okay. By Del Sol?
4th and 16th.
Okay.
Del Sol.
Okay.
Yeah, in that same plaza, there's, they just opened a little, there used to be, I don't know if you knew it, if it was there when you got here, it was the hot dog place. Like, I don't know.
Do we sit? No.
It used to be a hot dog place.
Oh, okay.
But like a fancy hot dog place. Mm-hmm. I don't remember. The Dog House or something like that.
Yes, I remember seeing that sign. Yes.
I don't know. When I saw that come in, I'm like, it's not going to work.
No, if you want Mexican hot dogs, there's one on 24th, right before you get to 4th Avenue on the right-hand side. There's a Mexican hot dog.
Oh, yeah? The Sonora dogs?
Yes.
Bacon?
The bacon wrapped.
Yeah, so good.
And, and then another thing is we love going to Lupitas and Algodones for the fish tacos. Mm-hmm. And like I said, everything we need.
Verde, have you been there? Just kidding.
No.
Have you heard of that one?
I've heard of that, but no, thank you. No gracias. I heard of that. But no, we...
I've never been there. No, I just heard stories.
We've heard, yeah. No, we go there. We go there to, and we go there for our glasses. We have our dentist there. We actually have our Dr. Flores is there. Mm-hmm. So we really, Dr. Flores from my wife is a dermatologist there. Is excellent. We just have so many beautiful things here. San Luis, for example, we take our dog to Dr. Sergio, where the veterinarian clinic's at. When you park your car at McDonald's in San Luis, cross over, they pick you up, and they take care of you. Yeah, it's a veterinarian. It's pretty good. It's called Centro de Veterinario on 5th Street in San Luis, in Dr. Sergio. They pick you up at the border.
Wow.
And with your dog. Take you there.
Take you back?
Shots are $40.
Wow.
Everything's a lot. They have full 24-hour, 7 days a week service.
Very cool.
So we go to San Luis, and then while in San Luis, we go to Tortas de Efe. Their tortas are good. So
I haven't had that.
It's pretty good. But like I said, that's what, I'm sorry I was long-winded. This is all from memory. I'll be showing you pictures of these burn pits so you'll know what they look like.
I want to see those.
But that's why I sent you some of my stuff. And you did receive the pictures.
I feel like we've barely even scratched the surface here. We might have to have you back.
Well, I would love to come back, and thank you for allowing me to talk about this autobiography. Yes, to vent. And like I say, fellow Californians, adapt to where you go to. Leave your ideas back home. It was great to be from the Golden State. Unfortunately, it's not what it is. And some of us have had to flee. Not a good fit
anymore.
It's not a good fit. It's very expensive. I have relatives that are still paying up to $3,000 rent a month. But I tell my relatives how hot it is because I don't want them here. So they haven't.
It's like, it's a little secret, right?
It's my secret. So they say, hace mucho calor. Yes, it does.
Yeah.
Yes, it does. So we, like I said, adapt to where you're living and embrace it. And just like I embraced Yuma, I love this place. This is my home now, and this is where I intend to stay until I'm at the veterans home here in Yuma. And I have down the street. I have my room reserved, so when I,
maybe you can work duty there.
Well, I could probably do that too, and
you can be a resident for half the pay or something.
Have to pay, yes, and do the security. But like I said, it's an honor to be here in Yuma. An honor to be embraced like we have, my wife and I. And it's just a beautiful place to live.
Yeah, I honestly, I'm excited to get you back on because I want to know more about like the school board and your role on that. And has that been a surprise? You're recently elected. It was last fall, right?
Yes.
You put on the school board. And so I'd love to pick your brain about, I'm sure it's not what you thought it would be as far as, I don't know. You worked for the government. So because I talked to Jeff Stoner a few weeks ago and, he's used to private enterprise and the speed that moves at. So being on the school board is not that. It's you have to have permission to have permission to have permission to have permission, and then get more permission.
Absolutely. One of the things with Jeff Stoner, he's an excellent gentleman. Everywhere he goes, everyone knows he is an establishment here in Yuma. I pick his brain a lot because he tells me the history of Yuma. He lets me know a lot of stuff about Yuma because he's well known. He's well known. He volunteers. Him and his wife Chris. They volunteer. They're there helping the community. They truly care. And then he runs a business. Mm-hmm. And I've seen this man talk about integrity. I've been around him when he gets a phone call from a customer, and it's a simple fix, and he tells them how to fix it on the phone, and he can easily get a service call to that person's house. But he'll help that person over the phone. Mm-hmm. Problem fixed. Mm-hmm. That's integrity.
Yeah.
And I really admire that. And Jeff will tell you, he does not, no tiene pelos en la lengua means that he doesn't sugarcoat stuff.
No, yeah.
Okay. And that's what Jeff does.
He doesn't have hair on his tongue.
Well, in Spanish it's called pelos en la lengua, means that, like I said, he doesn't sugarcoat nothing. And we just saw him the other day, and he's always busy. He's got 2 phones always going, so he's a good man. And like I said, we're just really excited to be part of this board. Myself, there's 5 of us. I am the bilingual, Spanish speaking, so I can talk to the parents.
Yep.
We encourage the parents to get involved in the activities of their children. Mm-hmm. That's what we need to do.
Mm-hmm. I love it.
So we'll do that.
Well, David, we'll have to have you back on.
Thank you very much.
I know you're a busy guy, but maybe after promotion. That's next week, right?
Yes. You
got to get that place spick and span.
We will do the best we can. And like I said, we just, we're still on cloud 9 with our 5-year anniversary living in Yuma. Uh-huh. And guess what? After driving that 4Runner that Josh gave me at Yuma, or upgraded us to, I bought my wife.
Did you?
A 4Runner from, of all places, here in Toyota.
Is that right?
Toyota dealership. They've changed names, but we went there and we picked the same one.
Oh, did you?
And
I like it.
We love it. We bought it in 2020. We asked them to put a big robe, like they see on the commercials, a red bow on it. Derek was our salesman there in Toyota.
Yeah, we do Toyota as well. It's awesome.
It's awesome.
I do it all through email. I have it all ready for me.
Yes.
Spends maybe 20 minutes signing paperwork. I've had the opposite experience in California. We bought a van there once, and it took me hours to get out of there.
Yeah.
And the sticker price, by the time we left, it was like, that was not what was advertised, Yeah. So Toyota here, I've just had such good dealings with them. So.
Yes, they're good people, and their service is great, and it's all, that was the sign, hey, you'll like this vehicle. And my wife was very happy with it. So
good.
We just...
If mama ain't happy, ain't nobody happy.
That's right. So, but thank you very much for having me on the show. And
we'll have
y aquí estamos a la orden siempre. Es un orgullo de estar en la mesa directiva, y también es un orgullo de vivir aquí en Yuma, una ciudad hermosa, con mucho calor, pero en el corazón también. Gracias.
Bueno.
Gracias.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
If you have questions or want to know more about something that was discussed today, please call the law firm of Deason, Garner, and Hansen at 928-783-4575 or visit yumaestateplanning.com.